Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today by asking you to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want you to visualize your typical day, not the specific events like meeting at 9 or lunch at noon, but the actual, the shape of it. For most of us, if we're being honest, it looks like a solid block of concrete, doesn't it?
That is a very heavy image to start with, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's accurate. It's dense.
right. We wake up and immediately it's input. We check the weather, the news, the emails.
You put on a podcast while we brush our teeth.
We text while we drink coffee. It's this relentless sort of linear momentum. We just go, go, go until we crash at night.
It's a culture that's just obsessed with linearity, with productivity. We treat time like a conveyor belt. We have to keep filling with boxes.
Exactly. And here's the question. If a crack appears in that concrete, let's say a meeting gets canceled or the internet goes down or you're just waiting in a car for someone who's late, what do you do?
Panic.
We panic. We treat that gap like a pothole in the road that needs to be filled immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
We grab the phone, we scroll, we text, just checking in. We do anything to patch that little hole.
Because the alternative, just staring into that gap, it feels wrong. It feels wasteful.
Yeah.
Or maybe, to be more precise, it feels terrifying.
Yes.
We equate being with wasting time.
And that terror, that urge to patch the hole, is exactly what we're exploring today. We are working with a really beautiful, I'd say slightly haunting piece of narrative philosophy. It's called The Presence of a Quiet Threshold.
It's a fascinating text.
It centers on a character named Anvika. And look, on the surface, this is a simple story about a woman sitting in a room doing nothing. But when you start to peel back the layers, which is, our job here, it's actually this radical dismantling of how we perceive our own existence.
I agree completely. This isn't some self-help listicle on 5 ways to relax. It's not about stress reduction.
No.
It's an investigation. It's about what happens when you stop treating silence as an enemy or a void and start treating it as something else entirely.
So our mission today is to figure out if silence is just an empty container we need to fill, or if it's, as this text suggests, an active, distinct stage of being. So let's get into Anvika's head. The story opens with her doing the unthinkable. She stops. And she stays stopped.
And we need to be very specific about this stop. This wasn't her sitting down to meditate for 20 minutes with a timer.
Right, not a planned relaxation.
Not a scheduled break. She just stopped moving. And the text describes her body's reaction in a way I think everyone listening will recognize.
It says her body finally exhaled after holding itself tight for too long. That line really got me, holding itself tight.
It implies that her baseline state, her normal everyday state, is just gripping.
It is.
That's the modern condition. We walk around with this low-level muscular and mental guarding. We're braced. We're braced for the next notification, the next problem, the next demand.
So when Anvika stops, the initial sensation isn't spiritual enlightenment. It's just
Biological relief.
biological relief, yeah. It's the absence of the assault.
The text mentions no pressure inside her, no noise demanding attention. It sounds lovely, honestly.
It does sound lovely, like
Yeah.
a battery recharge. And I think that's how most of us categorize silence, right? It's a pit stop.
It is a pit stop, but notice how we define it. In that initial phase, silence is defined by what it is not.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not working, it's not stress, it's not noise, it's a vacancy, a negation of all the bad stuff.
Right, it's a 0. The noise is a 10 and the silence is a 0.
Exactly. And for Anvika, at first, that's all it was, a lack of pressure, a vacancy. But here is where the deep dive really begins, because she doesn't get up. She stays in that vacancy.
Past the point of it being comfortable.
Yes. She stays until the silence begins to change its texture.
Texture is such a deliberate word choice there. Usually silence is invisible to us. It's just air. But for her, it becomes tactile. It starts to have weight.
And the text says it stopped being an absence and started being quietly present.
How do you interpret that? Quietly present.
Well, you have to shift your perspective on what empty means. Think about entering a room after a massive argument has just ended.
Oof, yeah.
Or walking into a cathedral. The silence in those places isn't empty, is it? It's heavy. It has a presence. You can almost feel it on your skin.
I know exactly what you mean.
Anvika is experiencing a shift where the silence stops being a background effect and becomes, well, the main character. It wasn't loud, the text says, and it wasn't uncomfortable yet. It was just there. It had mass.
And this leads to this concept of attentive silence. This is really the core mechanic of the shift. Anvika realized the silence wasn't passive. It felt like it was waiting.
Now, I have to be honest with you. If I feel like something is waiting for me, I immediately feel stress. I feel like I'm supposed to perform.
Oh, me too, 100%. That's because we're conditioned to respond to waiting with doing.
Right. If a waiter is waiting, you order. If an email is waiting, you reply. If a traffic light is waiting, you drive.
A pause is a signal for output. My immediate reaction is, what do you want from me?
But Anvika noticed something crucial here. The silence was waiting, but, and I'm quoting the source here, not impatiently, not expectantly.
So it wasn't asking for an output.
No, I wasn't asking her to decide anything. It wasn't asking her to move. It was asking her to listen.
And that is a fundamental flip in how we operate.
It is. Anvika is used to silence being a hallway. You walk through the hallway to get to the next room, the next activity. You don't hang out in the hallway.
Right, hanging out in the hallway is loitering. It's weird.
Exactly, but she realizes this isn't a hallway, it's a room. The source says it did not want to be filled, it wanted to be noticed.
It wanted to be noticed. That's a heavy idea. It suggests we're usually blind to the container of our lives because we're so obsessed with the content.
We're looking at the furniture and ignoring the room. That's a great way to put it. We are obsessed with content.
And this is where she runs into trouble. Because as soon as she realizes the silence wants to be noticed, she realizes how bad she is at doing it. She starts remembering all the times she's crushed moments like this before.
The unproductive
The
spaces.
moments she usually destroys.
The text says she usually labeled these moments where nothing seemed to be happening as unproductive, and because they were labeled that, she felt justified in killing them.
Distracting herself. Finding something to do.
That labeling, calling it unproductive or boredom, it's a defense mechanism. It's a weapon we use against the silence. If we label nothing happening as a problem, then we're authorized to solve it with a distraction.
Because if we don't solve it, we have to sit with the ambiguity. And human beings, we hate ambiguity.
It's almost like an addiction to clarity. Even if the clarity is just some dumb social media post, at least it's something defined. At least I know what it is.
Precisely. Clarity is safe. Ambiguity is risky. So Anvika makes a choice here that defines the rest of the narrative. She decides to stay in the ambiguity.
And the text lists her constraints. It sounds almost like a challenge. She stayed without naming what she felt, without trying to understand it too quickly, without translating it into action.
That list stresses me out just reading it. Without naming what she felt. My brain is a naming machine. I am constantly narrating my own life. I am bored. I am hungry. I am annoyed.
This is a waste of time.
Exactly.
That narration is a form of control. If you name it, you own it. You categorize it and file it away. Anvika is practicing a form of surrender. She's letting the experience exist without putting a sticker on it.
And by doing that, she discovers that the silence wasn't empty. It was holding something, but not an answer, right? It wasn't holding some secret message.
No, not an answer. It was holding attention.
Let's unpack this because this is the subtle point in the text. Attention that had nowhere else to go.
Think about a searchlight. Your attention is usually a beam of light you shine on things. Your work, your kids, their phone, the road. It's always projecting outward, latching onto objects.
Right, it's always attached to something.
But in this void, in this quiet threshold, there are no objects, so the searchlight has nothing to hit. But, and this is key, the light doesn't turn off, it's still on, it just hangs there.
The text says it rested quietly within her.
This is pure capability. It's the engine idling at high RPMs, but in neutral.
And that state, that idling in neutral, leads to the insight that I think is the centerpiece of this whole deep dive. The text says, Anvika realized that awareness does not always arrive as a thought.
It's a profound sentence.
It really is. I feel like our entire education system, our whole work culture, teaches us the exact opposite. I think, therefore I am. If I can't put it into words, it doesn't exist.
We conflate the two completely. We think awareness is the internal monologue. But Anvika is accessing a layer beneath the monologue. The text describes it as a feeling of readiness without content.
Readiness without content.
Yeah.
Can you give us an analogy for that? Because it sounds a bit mystical, but I have a feeling it's actually something we've all felt.
It's not mystical at all. It's actually very practical. Imagine a sprinter at the starting blocks, the on your marks, get set phase. In that split second before the gun goes off, they aren't running. They aren't thinking about dinner. They aren't analyzing their form. They are just in a state of hyper readiness.
They're vibrating.
Exactly. They're fully present, fully available, but the content, the race itself hasn't started yet.
That's perfect. So they aren't doing nothing. They are pure potential.
And Anvika feels that. She feels that something is forming, even if it has no shape yet. It's a formless state. And for the logical mind, which loves Shapes and boxes and definitions. This is torture.
And the text is really honest about that. I appreciate that this isn't a fairy tale where she enters the silence and suddenly floats on a cloud of bliss. She feels unsafe.
She feels incredibly unsafe.
It lists exactly what was missing. Without the comfort of plans,
Yeah.
without the safety of conclusions, without the familiar pressure of movement. I stopped at that phrase, the familiar pressure.
It's weird to think of pressure as a safety blanket, isn't it? But it kind of is.
It is, but it makes total sense. Pressure acts as a validation. If I'm under pressure, I have a purpose. If I have a deadline, I have a reason to exist today.
It tells me who I am and what I need to do next. It structures my reality.
It's a GPS system. Turn left in 500 feet. Respond to email in 5 minutes.
Right. Now turn off the GPS. You're in the middle of a desert, no instructions, no turn left. That silence isn't peaceful, it's terrifyingly open. You are left with just yourself.
And for many of us, that's the person we spend the least amount of time with. We barely know them.
So she's stripping away the plans, the conclusions, the pressure. She's sitting in this discomfort, refusing to distract herself. And then finally, she hits bedrock.
She finds calm. But again, the text is very specific here. It wasn't a promise of certainty.
It was an offer of honesty. That is my favorite distinction in the entire piece. Certainty versus honesty.
Okay, what is the difference in this context? Why is honesty better than certainty?
Certainty is usually a fabrication. It's a story we tell ourselves about the future to feel better. If I do X, then Y will happen.
Everything is going to be fine.
This is exactly where I'm going. That certainty, it's comforting, but it's often an illusion.
And honesty.
Honesty is just what is. Honesty is admitting, I don't know what happens next. I am feeling anxious. I am here, and I have no plan. The silence refused to lie to her. It wouldn't give her a fake plan. It just gave her the reality of the moment.
Which brings us to the title. The Quiet Threshold.
Mm.
She realizes this isn't a gap between two real things. It's a stage of its own.
A threshold is a doorway. But usually we rush through doorways. We want to be in the room. We want to be at the destination.
But she realizes the doorway itself, the space between, is a valid place to stand.
And in this space, the hierarchy of values flips. In the doing world, deciding is the highest value. Leaders decide. Winners decide.
But here,
Listening is the highest value. Listening is the action.
I kept waiting for the epiphany. Yeah, these stories usually go.
Yeah.
She sits in silence, she listens,
Yeah.
and then bam, she realizes she needs to quit her job or move to Paris. I was waiting for the action item.
And that's the brilliance of the narrative. It denies you that satisfaction. The source explicitly says the silence did not tell her. It did not reveal anything clearly.
It's so frustrating,
Yeah.
but also kind of a relief.
Well, think about it. If the silence gave her a clear instruction, she would immediately pop back into doing mode, wouldn't she?
Oh yeah, she'd grab a notebook. Okay, silence said move to Paris. Let me check flight prices. Let me make a list.
And the moment would be dead. She would be back in the concrete block. The silence wanted to keep her in being. It didn't want to become a task manager.
Didn't want to be a consultant.
Exactly. It wanted to be a companion.
So if it didn't ask for action, what did it ask for? What was the final demand of this threshold?
It asked for something much harder than action. It asked her not to turn away.
That's it. Just
You
look
get me.
Just witness this.
Yeah.
Don't scroll past it. Don't plan over it. Don't rationalize it. Just stay with the discomfort, stay with the honesty, and don't flinch.
And the story ends with her acceptance. She realizes that simply not turning away was enough. She didn't solve the silence. She inhabited it. And that is the practice. It's not a destination where you arrive and say, I am now a Zen master. It's a continuous return to that threshold over and over. Every time the concrete cracks, you have a choice.
Patch it or inhabit it. It's a really powerful reframing. I feel like I need to sit with this for a minute myself. But before we wrap up, I want to try and crystallize this for you. We've floated through some pretty abstract concepts.
Texture, thresholds, readiness without content.
Yeah. If we had to boil this down to the absolute core insights, what are they?
I see 4 pillars here, based on the text.
Okay, hit me with the first one.
1, silence is active, not empty. You have to stop viewing the quiet moments in your day as dead air or errors. Treat them as a presence, not an absence.
I like that. Stop treating silence like a pothole. Okay, number 2.
2, awareness arrives before clarity. This is the readiness without content idea. Don't panic if you feel alert but don't know what you're alert about. Let the awareness sit there, formless, like the sprinter at the blocks.
That's the hardest one for me. I want the thought immediately.
We all do. Which leads to 3. Distinguish attention from action. Some moments ask you to do, but this threshold asks you to attend. If you try to fix a moment that just wants to be